Feel every punch in Mortal Kombat. Feel the blooming explosions in Contra 3. Feel the throbbing heat of being on fire in NBA Jam. For the first time in gaming, your body will experience everything that happens on screen with 1994's revolutionary virtual reality gameware. It's the Aura Interactor. And instead of just seeing and hearing, this vest combines the haptic with vibrational phenomena to put you inside your games from the comfort of your living room floor. You're not ready for PlayStation's DualShock controller or the N64 Rumble Pack, but you've got the Interactor to pioneer physical feedback in console gaming. And it's powered by the US military's Star Wars missile defense program. Feel the action with the Aura Interactor. Okay, if the technology was so amazing, why is this thing completely forgotten? Deep inside the Aura Interactor is the story of a high-talent, tireless innovator who swung for the fences to transform gaming forever and to finally fulfill the dream of immersive, interactive entertainment by sticking a speaker inside a plastic backpack. In the February 1994 issue of Popular Science, the What's New column unearthed a memory of mine from 30 years ago. It told me to feel the action, and the description next to an incredibly cool photo of the vest lit from below through a metal grate says, "The Interactor vest vibrates in sync with direct hits and music bass lines when plugged into the audio out jack of a video game system, TV, or stereo system. You can adjust the intensity of the pulses or filter out background music. Price, $89. As an 11-year-old in 1994, I was a loyal subscriber to both GamePro and Electronic Gaming Monthly magazines, and I remember seeing ads for the Interactor as I listened to my Nirvana in Utero cassette tape. I wanted the Interactor. The thought of being able to feel Link destroy Ganon in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past sounded amazing. But I had a hard enough time begging my mom just to buy me Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis. She thought the ultra-violence was disgusting. Hey Ma, what'd you think of Mortal Kombat?
It was disgusting.
Yeah, and she wasn't alone. A 1994 review of The Interactor by Chuck Thomas in the Camarillo Star referred to kids like me as 13-year-old Mortal Kombat freaks. Actually, Chuck, I was an 11-year-old Mortal Kombat freak. Thank you. There was no way I was going to convince my mom to buy a virtual reality vest so I could feel Sub-Zero ripping off Sonya Blade's head as her spinal cord dangled and dripped blood, after inputting the blood code, obviously. So I didn't have an Interactor, but neither did any of my friends. It seemed like an incredibly cool next-level way to play video games, and we were all seeing the ads, but no one I knew had one. Why? You know, the retro tech items that I've made videos on are almost always really tough to come by. It took me more than 3 months to find a working Selectavision 400, and it was nearly impossible to get a Butler in a box with the PIN code. And even when I find the thing I need, the unit and any accessories have to be functioning properly and survive shipping from a seller who may or may not care that it gets to me in one piece. But I managed to find an Aura Interactor cheaply on eBay because there are a million of these on eBay. Not only are there a ton of used Interactors, but there are a ton of brand new Interactors still in the shrink wrap. For $25, I got an Interactor that looks like I just plucked it off the shelf of KB Toys while Warren G's Regulate played under the halogen lights. I'm finally making a video about a readily available device, and that's awesome for me today, but that cheap accessibility foreshadowed a serious red flag for the Interactor. I cracked open the box and immediately noticed damage on the logo. It looks used and obviously scuffed despite being brand new, which is bad. The package contains the backpack, a power amplifier, a bag of adapters, and a 3.5mm mini cable. And the biggest honkin' transformer I've ever seen in my life. I'm used to big boxy 17-watt power supplies for retro consoles, but this 3.5 by 2.5 by 2.25 inch 38-watt behemoth dwarves them all. Apparently, if you want to feel Mega Man's Buster Gun, you need to connect it to a miniature nuclear reactor. Okay, so here's how this thing works. The Interactor divides the frequency of incoming sounds through the amplifier by a factor of 4. So 400 Hz sounds become 100 Hz, which allows these lower frequency vibrations to be felt in the back of the user by being fed through a large subwoofer. The main technology inside is an anti-vibration magnetic actuator, which is a device that reduces the effects of unwanted vibrations. On August 20th, 1996, The Telegraph wrote that it was designed for the space shuttle, conceived by a team of US defense scientists who previously worked on the Star Wars program. We'll have to take their word for that. Rick Mayberry was dubious that it was anything more than a speaker in a plastic box with shoulder straps. But the hype from Aura was massive. In a 1994 interview, inventor Larry Schultz described the Interactor's physioacoustic induction effect by saying, "It's the full breadth of frequency, the full textures of sound you actually feel, conducted through the bones of your body. So when I go, roar, you feel that going up your spine." I've got my Super Nintendo and my Sega Genesis and a stack of different genres of games to feel all 16 bits of groar going up my spine. This kind of hurts. Well, it doesn't really hurt, but it doesn't exactly feel pleasant either. It's like being attacked by a big plastic boxy massager. It does transfer the sound effects and the pulse of the music perfectly, so it does exactly what it sets out to do, but the impact of every punch and kick registers instantly as a forceful vibration in my back. You can adjust the intensity of the feeling with the power wheel numbered 0 to 10, and you can limit what sounds get through with the filter wheel also numbered 0 to 10. So for instance, if I crank the filter to 10 in NBA Jam, I could feel every bounce of the basketball dribbling, and also feel the announcer's garbled voice iconically shouting, "The filter is the secret sauce technology of the Interactor, being able to balance what sounds come through and turn into vibrations with the power of those vibrations is how you get the most out of the VR vest experience." My dream in 1994 was to be immersed in what became one of my favorite games of all time, Super Metroid, and the actual effect is basically just relegated to being zapped in the back with each shot from Samus's arm cannon. Kind of lame. But it's impossible for you to get a sense of what this thing is doing just from me telling you what I'm feeling, so how can I actually show you? Cymatics. It comes from the Greek kyma, meaning wave. Cymatics is a term coined by Swiss medical doctor Hans Jenny to describe the effects of sound and vibration on matter. He published Cymatics, a study of wave phenomena, in 1967, but science and technology minds had been observing how vibration generates visible patterns for centuries. Leonardo da Vinci wrote about the gathering of dust motes on his desk in the late 1400s. A really effective cymatics demonstration technique is to use sand on a Chladni plate, named after father of acoustics Ernst Chladni, which is a metal plate attached to a speaker. As different frequencies vibrate through the plate, beautiful patterns emerge known as nodal lines of the vibration mode. This means I'm going to show you what the impacts of video games look like when they're converted to vibration by the Interactor. The only problem is, I can't get it to work. Chladni plates are flat sheets of metal that evenly distribute the vibration through the dust or sand, but the Interactor is not flat. It's shaped to the form of a back, a child's back. The upper part of the vest is concave, while the lower part that's directly in line with the speaker is convex, to follow the natural curve of the human back. I will now show you my failure. I put contact paper on the Interactor to cover the holes so the sand wouldn't just fall down into them, but when I turned it on, the sand just slides off the convex surface and kind of shakes around. You can see the sand move, but no geometric patterns appear. I could try to take it apart and put a flat metal plate over the speaker itself, but I want to really just demonstrate what a kid in 1994 was feeling through the actual vest itself. Okay, what about holding a small bowl of water on it that can show the vibrations with ripples? No, it doesn't work. I filled the bowl and held it on the convex area, but it's not secure enough to generate consistent cymatic visualizations. The vessel just moves around too much, so I'm gonna have to secure this somehow. While I figured that out, I really wanted to know what 90s kids actually thought of the Interactor. It doesn't feel great on my adult back, but it wasn't made for adults. It was designed to rest comfortably on a kid's back, so maybe kids had a totally different experience. Kids' reviews in 1994 basically ranged from no thanks to it's kinda cool, I guess. The November 13th, 1994 issue of the Atlanta Constitution featured a review of the Interactor by 11-year-old Nathan Lee Hicks, who said he was sorely disappointed. He struggled setting it up and needed his dad to figure it out. He said, "I thought it would shake a lot. All it did was massage your back," which is not terrible for adults with back pain, but 5th graders playing Rocket Knight Adventures probably weren't looking for back rubs. In the September 2nd, 1994 issue of the Cincinnati Enquirer, 12-year-old Jeremy Belcher said, "It feels weird." 14-year-old Elton Whittle said, "It tickles." And 11-year-old Michael Edmond described it as a little like being in a jacuzzi. The Sun in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina featured 13-year-old Gavin Kongboon pronouncing the gadget as pretty cool. Pretty cool is better than tickling and feeling weird, but it wasn't going to revolutionize the gaming industry. But those are random kids. What did the pros say about it? EGM's lab report actually gave a nice breakdown of how it worked with different games. They rated Super Street Fighter II a 6 out of 10 for not calibrating well, and Toe Jam and Earl got a 9 out of 10 for good bass, decent feel. Their final verdict was a completely wishy-washy non-statement. They said it's an innovative machine, but ended with suggesting you gotta try it yourself to know if you'd like it. "I don't really know if you'd like it" is not much of an endorsement. By the early 2000s, retrospectives on the Interactor flat out made fun of it. In 2004, EGM referred to it as an overpriced massager, and in 2007, they claimed its most effective attribute was giving Mountain Dew and candy-fueled gamers diarrhea. So despite a $5 million marketing blitz and a truly first-to-market innovative virtual reality peripheral with literal space-age technology, the Interactor was pretty much dead in less than a year. It's hard to gauge how many units they sold. The September 7th, 1996 Evening Herald claimed they sold 1.5 million units, but the unsourced figure on Wikipedia says 400,000, which I would guess is probably closer to the truth. We definitely know it wasn't selling like hotcakes by looking at how quickly the market reacted to sales. Prior to launch, it was expected to retail for $249. That would be the equivalent of over $500 today. They landed on a retail price of $99 for the 1994 launch, but by 1995, it was already down to $79.99 at Toys R Us, and by 1996, it was a full-out liquidation of stock at only $19.99. It appears that Australian retailer J-Car Electronics bought out the leftover stock in 1997 for pennies on the dollar. I found a newspaper ad that explained all the big retailers sold the Interactor slowly because the price was way too high. The importer sold them all to J-Car at a fraction of the cost. In 1998, a J-Car Electronics ad was calling it the Body Blaster, with a bizarre illustration of a guy basically exploding in front of his TV. A Retro Roundtable forum post from 2002 from Crazy Imp Mom says that their local Meijer grocery store had 50 unsold Interactors that they were selling for $2. $2! Until they finally threw the leftovers in a dumpster. Now, 30 years later, eBay is littered with brand new unopened interactors waiting for anyone to strap them onto their back to feel punches, explosions, kicks, uppercuts, slam dunks, crashes, body blows, and more. The haptic experience of controllers is just a standard part of gaming now. The N64 bundled the Rumble Pack with Star Fox 64 in 1997, which was a controller-shaking accessory you could slide into the memory cartridge slot.
It's designed with a force feedback device that lets players feel the game.
That same year, Sony built it right into their new DualShock controller, Dual being the two analog sticks and Shock being the vibration feature.
And each handle is an actuator. That's a hardware term for something that actuates or starts something else. In this case, vibration.
Haptics are meant to unite the senses, like the vision substitution system Paul Bach-y-Rita invented in the 1960s. It was a 20 by 20 grid of rods that were raised and lowered in the back of a chair so people could feel and identify pictures and patterns poking into their backs. But haptics in gaming began in the arcades back in 1976. According to the history of haptic technology on the Tesla Suit website, the Tesla Suit being a $13,000 haptic feedback biometric motion capturing suit, Fonz by Sega was the first game to feature vibro-tactile feedback. It allowed each player to feel the rumble of a motorcycle when it crashed into another player's bike on the screen. The real inventor of haptics as we think of it today came from the place that invented basically everything. In my video on Mitsubishi's 1987 Visitel video phone, I touched on the unbelievable impact of Bell Labs, and guess who invented haptic feedback? Bell Labs. In First Hand, The Beginnings of Force Feedback, a memoir, A. Michael Knoll recounts the system he developed in the late 60s while working at Bell Telephone Laboratories Inc. in Murray Hill, New Jersey. His mechanical tactile unit was patented in 1970 and allowed a motorized 3D input device to simulate shapes, surfaces, weight, and mass. The 3D joystick worked in conjunction with the 3D stereoscopic computer animation they also developed. The lesson is, everything was invented at Bell Labs. And now haptics are such a huge part of gaming they became a defining feature of the PlayStation 5's DualSense controller, with immersive haptic feedback and dynamic adaptive triggers. But the most incredible aspect of this vibrating commercial failure is actually the guy behind it. According to his LinkedIn, before the Interactor, Larry Schultz developed Ticket TV, a pay-per-view encryption system. Then he financed neo-radial speaker technology that led to the world's most powerful 18-inch subwoofer. And while the Interactor was languishing on toy store shelves, he partnered with his friend Stanley Lieber to start working on movies and books. You probably know some of Stanley Lieber's work. In the May 1941 Captain America #3, he used another name for the first time: Stan Lee. There is a non-zero chance I am related to Stan Lieber. In the years since, Schultz developed the IntelliFlow airbag throttling valve to make airbags in cars safer. He started multiple companies on the bleeding edge of energy technology, including a more efficient process for extracting bitumen, a sticky constituent of petroleum from tar sands and oil sand, a company to pressurize abandoned oil wells, an all-in-one solar panel and battery storage company, and an ocean desalination and brine waste recycling facility. Hey, Larry Schultz, if you're watching this video, do you sleep? Anyone as prolific as Larry Schultz has successes and has failures, and the Interactor didn't work out. Kids weren't begging Santa Claus for a backpack that punched them in the back as they played Sonic the Hedgehog. But even a forgotten blip on the radar of gaming history can be used for something. Because like Gavin Kongboon said, it's pretty cool. So it's time for Interactor Cymatics. I spent an afternoon with my dad to develop a setup featuring several crossing rows of double-sided tape to affix a small piece of glass Tupperware to the center crest of the Interactor's speaker. With some dyed water and a sprinkling of gold-colored mica dust, we can, for the first time, see what Mortal Kombat 3 feels like with the Interactor. The Interactor may have suffered a fatality. Kids in the 90s collectively uppercutted this attempt at virtual reality right into the uncaring spikes at the bottom of the pit. But the beauty of human ingenuity is in the courage and conviction to choose continue and invent something better. Because sometimes you need to get kicked in the back to keep moving forward. See you in the future.